What is up? I am actually, sorry about that. I'm actually right now testing out my new Elgato setup, so this video may be a little bit choppy. Not sure. Um, any audio problems that you all seem to hear, please let me know so that way I can fix them. But I figured for the first video back, and it's been almost 3 years, been probably about 2 years, and probably over 2.5 years. Figured I'd make a setup video. A lot of people have been wanting it. So I was going to make a 450 setup video to start everything off with. And instead of going to each bike and really talking about, like, if you ride the Kawi or the Suzuki or the Blaze or the Honda or the KTM 350 even, I'm just going to do pretty much the whole 450 class together. There's really not too much difference on the bikes for what you want to run. To be honest, the Kawasaki and the Blaze pretty much run the same setups. They're kind of act the same on every track. The Blaze seems to handle better on the sand tracks is about the only thing that seems to be different. If you have any background noise, by the way, sorry, my dogs are kind of barking outside. But I'm going to start with the Suzuki 450. That is my favorite 450 in the game. My personal preference, I think it's the fastest 450. Handlebars, graphics, it's all personal. It's all you. Now, getting into the setup, when you really want to go faster on track and you think that your setup just isn't up to par with what it should be, most of that comes from your horsepower, depending whether you need more top end or low end. If you need more pull or if you need more, long-term horsepower or speed through a track, then that depends what setup you want to run. Now, a good setup I would recommend for everybody is to go to the Pro Circuit, put on the TI4R, and then go put on Pro Circuit suspension too. That is a really solid setup. It's Pro Circuit. Ever since the game was out, a lot of people ran it. Normally, it's a really good practice setup. Other than that, if you're really good at keeping your momentum up and you ride the outside a lot, it's really not too bad of a setup on the Blaze or the Suzuki to ride the Leo Vance X3. And then when you get to suspension, to run with that, you're either going to want to run Race Tech, or you're probably going to want to put on maybe something around Enzo or 4PR Performance. They normally work well with it. The typical setup you'll see, though, around Alive, which I know is a kind of an older game now, but still good community. And the main setup you'll see around is normally the FMF setup, which I see a lot of people running on every bike class. Which, if you're going to run it on a 450, just make sure you run a carbon. It seems to be a lot better than the stainless. The stainless isn't really that bad, but the carbon seems to be a lot better, especially on the 450s. And then, if you're going to run the FMF, I would recommend running a factory connection setup with it. If you're not going to run factory connection, I would also recommend either Race Tech or RG3 or 4PR Performance. Those are the main suspensions I would recommend running, honestly, with any setup when it comes to the 450s, especially the Suzuki. Now, the setup you'll see a lot of the faster guys use, and the guys that are running 117s at piston, normally every time they go there, people running lap times like that, a lot of them are going to have the Yoshis on. And this goes for most of their four-stroke bike classes. They're going to probably run the carbon Yosh. Now, the titanium is not bad by any means. Do not think that if you're running the titanium, you have to switch to carbon or else you're going to always have a slower lap time. It's not true. The titanium is still a very good exhaust. Not too much of a power difference. I feel like the titanium has more pull, has a lot faster, lower gearing, I guess I should say, and just seems to get your power up quicker and get you back going on the track a lot faster and a lot sooner than most of the other pipes. It's really good at most tracks, and I would recommend it. It's a very good pipe to get used to riding with and kind of get used to speed, get used to riding in ruts especially, if you have troubles with that, it seems to hold its speed very well when riding in ruts. The carbon though is what most people run. It's what I run. It's a very good pipe. It's very light on the bikes. The top speed on it is pretty high considering that normally most people you'll see run even a pro circuit or a FMF pipe. Once you get kind of top speeds, if you really know how to work your bike and straightaways and stuff, the carbon Yosh just seems to kind of have some pull on everybody. And not a lot of people really think about the setups too much, but that's just some small things I would add to your setup. Now, speaking about the Yoshes before I really end the whole exhaust and suspension, the Yoshes pretty much run with the same suspension, no matter if you're in the titanium or the carbon. You're probably going to run 4PR Performance or you're going to run RG3. Normally, you really don't run into too much else. I mean, you can run just about anything with them, and they'll run very well no matter what. But the RG3 and the 4PR Performance seems to stand out alone to every other suspension when running with a Yoshimura pipe on the 450s. Maybe it's just me, but in my opinion, I feel like the RG3's 4PR Performance, they just have kind of a smoother ride and easier ways to whip. It just all flows and feels really smooth around every track. Really don't have any kind of delay. Anything that you would think of being bad on a track doesn't really come with this type of setup. Everything's just really smooth and flows well. Race Tech isn't that bad. I wouldn't really use it unless you're using like a big gun pipe, which I really didn't go over it, but a big gun pipe, not recommended. They're okay. Probably a Supercross is about the only place you want to use one, but they're not great. The next thing that a lot of people don't take into consideration is the tires. Now, a lot of people say run Maxxis, SIs, ITs. A lot of people run the SIs. Half the people in this game that you see are probably running Maxxis SI tires. That is probably the most used tires on the game. Now, they're not bad. As you see right now, I'm even using them. So, they're not bad. They're really good tires. Of course, the SMs are the sand tires. You really don't want to use those unless you're probably free on that Devil's Playground. But now the SX tires, you do want to use those when you ride Supercross tracks. If you have the DLC, if you're riding with friends and y'all are doing racing or something at the Stewart compound on the Supercross tracks and free ride, like the SX tires for some reason make more of a difference when riding on the Supercross track than it does riding, say, ITs on muddy tracks rather than SIs, when ITs would probably give you more grip due to how they're made. But the SX tires, you really do want to run on Supercross. They really do make a big difference. Your lap time drops probably about 1 second to 2 seconds. The grip is a lot better, and you can really rail the corners and really just kind of have that bursty speed into sections that you really need. Now, the ITs are not bad. As I just said, they're good for ripping up on muddy tracks. You would think they would be, but they're not that much of a difference from the SIs. Honestly, it's personal preference. I would personally go with SIs. I think they have better grip. I think they give you more traction throughout the track, especially on sand tracks and like 45 Palms, like all the clay tracks. I feel like you get a lot of traction. Don't really have too much problem sliding out. You don't really have any issues with, scrubbing too far or not getting your scrub off or getting kind of stuck in a rut. It's just flows really well. Whenever you need to kick your back tire out, it normally kicks. It doesn't have so hard of a stick that it just makes your bike stiff and you can't move. It's a really good traction. Feels really nice going around the track. I would recommend it. Now, going to Sedona is kind of a weird topic because I used to run these a lot. These were the only tires I used to run on every bike, the 250, 125, and 450. And I still believe they're really good. One thing I always want to point out, the reason I used to always think they were good, if you look right here on the tires, you get a Maxxis SIs. You see the layout and you can see, the treads. You can just see how the tire is. Now, if you go to Sedona, they are basically the same thing, except on the outside of your tire, if you notice, the treads are not as thick, so like they wouldn't give you as much traction turning. but they look like they have more tread on the tires. It's kind of weird. I really don't know if it's just the graphics or what. I always thought they had more tread on it or it had more traction. I just always thought it looked like it was going to grip better. But really, they're about the same as the SIs. There's not a big difference. The Sedona definitely, if you ride at Piston or Grandview or Catapult Canyon or Devil's Playground a lot, then Sedona tires, run them. They are perfect for sand tracks. They turn your bike into a sand demon. You get the best traction you can probably get on those tracks running these tires. I would fully recommend them if you run the sand tracks a lot. Now, what else is there? Chassis. Of course, you want to run factory chassis. If you don't, you're not going to be able to whip, not going to be able to turn, you're not going to be able to keep your speed up. So everyone knows already, keep your factory chassis. Now, brakes. I run stock brakes. Most people run oversized. If you look above where it says power brake, traction, suspension, chassis, that's what the normal brake or the oversized brake gives you. You're 3-way from max. I use the stock brake, which is only 4 braking power, and the reason I use that, and the way I explain it to everyone that asks me why I use stock brakes, is think about it this way. If you are going into a turn that is a really wide turn, like it's basically a sweeper, and you need a brake, just enough to get you through it, but you can still stay on the gas. If you use oversized brakes, you're going to get slowed down a lot. And you might end up locking your brakes up, and you might end up like turning yourself, doing a 180. You might wreck yourself. Like there's a lot of things that can happen whenever you brake too hard. Now, if you use stock brakes, you can let off your gas and just tap your brake and just ease on into a turn and keep your momentum up. And halfway through it, or maybe even on the entrance, you already have enough speed to be able to get back on the gas and get your speed back up during the turn. And you'll still make the turn because you slowed yourself down enough beforehand. So I feel like stock brakes are the really only size brakes you need on this game. I feel like oversized is just, it's kind of overkill. You really don't need it. There's so much can go wrong when using oversized brakes. You can easily like loop out, lock up. Anything can happen when you use oversized brakes. I feel like they're a risk. Yeah, you can still run good times with them. They're not terrible. I'm not going to say, don't use them if you do, or you're wrong for using them. You're not. They're still, good brakes. If you're used to them, use them by all means. But I feel like stock brakes is just the way to go. I feel like they are just more reliable and consistency throughout every track. Now that we're done with the Suzuki, go into the Kawi. Use this setup for the Blaze too, the setups I give you for the Kawi, because they're really not too different than the Suzukis, to be honest. But the KTM, the Honda, the Takashi, and the Yamaha, I'm really not going to go over. Those bikes really don't keep up to par with the other ones. The Takashi can, so if you want to use the Takashi, take the Takashi setup as the setup that I give for the Kawi, because everything that works on the Kawi will work on the Blaze and the Takashi. They're all around the same type of bikes, but the Kawasaki does seem to be a little bit faster. Now, exhaust systems on the Kawi are a little bit weird, because you can go to Yoshimura like the Suzuki. You can think, okay, well, the Suzuki has top end with the carbon yosh. It's really fast. Why don't I throw it on my Kawi? It should work the same. It's really weird. It does not work the same. At least from my experiences, if it works for you, then you know what, great. Happy it works for you. You found out something that I couldn't do. I'm happy for you. But the carbon yosh, to me, seems like it doesn't have the power that it does on the Suzuki. It seems like the bike's a little bit too heavy for it, in my opinion. Now, the titanium is pretty good on the Kawasaki. It's not like great, and it's not terrible either. It's kind of a happy medium. Honestly, if you're going to run a pipe on the Kawi, I really wouldn't recommend anything but the TI4R. I feel like that is the only thing to recommend someone to run on the Kawasaki. And not just because it's Pro Circuit, Pro Circuit Kawasaki. I'm not saying it just because of that. It's the fact that if you run every other pipe, the only thing that really compares is a titanium yosh. But when you compare your lap times of, say, running a titanium yosh for, say, a week, and then a Pro Circuit TI4R for a week, the Pro Circuit pipe, you're going to have anywhere from 3 to 5 second faster lap times depending on your speed and what kind of riding level you're at. The difference is just way too much to even think about using that titanium yoke. Once you get used to riding the Pro Circuit, it's just so much better. Now, as y'all can probably see, RG3 is my favorite suspension on the game, but Pro Circuit setup on the Kawi is very well. It works very good. Like I said it's a good setup for all bikes, but it honestly is an amazing setup for the Kawasaki's. I just like the RG3 setup with the Pro Circuit. I feel like it's smoother. I'm more used to how the RG3 suspension rides. If you wanted to, the Pro Circuit suspension and the Enzo suspension run really well with a Pro Circuit pipe, and you can throw these even on a Honda 250. But you can throw them on the Kawasaki 450 and run Enzo Pro Circuit. You can run Pro Circuit, RG3 Pro Circuit, Racetech Pro Circuit. Just as long as you have that Pro Circuit pipe on, that is what's going to make or break your Kawasaki speeds and gains that you get riding this bike. So I would recommend probably starting out, if you're slower speed or if you just can't really seem to get your scrubs down, run Enzo. If you're really learning the bike, run Enzo and Pro Circuit TI4R. If you really just need some more consistency practice and you feel like you have that speed but you're not at that consistent level you want to be at, I would say run Pro Circuit setup. It's very well, gives you a lot of training on every bike too. It's why I recommend it to everybody no matter what bike they ride. Now the RG3 and Racetech are kind of all in one here on the Kawasaki. There's not too much of a difference between them. The Racetech seems to work better on the Kawi than it does on the Suzuki. I don't know why. My opinion, I feel like it works better. But the RG3 kind of has a more low to the ground, hard suspension setup, while Racetech is more of a softer setup with kind of more launch to it, more bounce to it, and get you a little bit higher in the air, which I really don't like. If you like launching stuff, definitely run the Racetech. The thing can launch anything you really want it to, and you'll make it. But I like staying low to the ground. I like staying to the insides of corners. So RG3 is what I use. Take from that, use whatever you think your riding style would fit to. Once again, stop brakes. I use it on every bike, as I was saying. Tires are about the same, honestly. Maxxis SI. I already talked about the tires earlier, but Maxxis SI or the ITs work really well in the Kawi, just because of the heaviness of the bike. It feels a little bit heavier than the Suzuki. So if you're in the ITs, it's not a bad option either. It's still going to run really well. And basically just use those setups on the Blaze 450 and you're going to get possibly the same output. I mean, there's not too much of a difference in what you really need to use for the Blaze. But, that's just some helpful tips and hints. And just some setups I've used and I've seen a lot of people use and a lot of people go through when it comes to the 450 class. There will be another video I'm going to be making on the 250 and then the 125. I know this video was kind of a little bit long. I really didn't prepare for it too much. I just kind of threw this all together. So, yeah, I'll be making a 250 video and a 125 video very soon. They might even be uploaded right after this one. I'm not too sure yet. But leave a like, comment, subscribe, and once again, like I said in the start of the video, if you have any audio issues, anything that you see could have been fixed in the video, always take constructive criticism. Just comment whatever you feel like you would like to see more of, or maybe any kind of series you'd like to see in the future, and I might throw them into the YouTube channel. And thank you for watching again.